Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the podcast. My name is Lisa, and for today's topic, I want to discuss navigating a spiritual journey, specifically navigating a spiritual journey when no one else around you is, because that has largely been my experience up until this point, and it can definitely feel isolating and challenging at times. So, I wanted to share a little bit more about what I've learned so far. Okay, so I want to start by defining my spiritual journey. In the very first episode of this podcast, I shared with you the process of discovering that I'm an energy healer, which I learned last year. But this was not my introduction to spirituality. I had actually been consuming spiritual content for several years. I want to say, like, back in 2018, 2019, I started listening to Oprah's Super Soul Conversations, and I feel like that was my gateway into spirituality. So I remember that was my introduction to different thought leaders like Eckhart Tolle. From there, I read his book, The Power of Now. In 2020 is when I started to I was gonna say spiral. I won't say spiral. I started to go down different rabbit holes, specifically around like near death experiences. And that was something that brought me a lot of peace during a time of complete chaos. Like when I couldn't make sense of the world and what was going on, hearing about or learning about or listening to these stories of people who had had near death experiences and seeing the patterns within that just brought me a lot of peace during a chaotic time. And then from there, when I was heavily researching pregnancy and listening to different podcasts, I came across a podcast discussing spirit babies. And this was created by someone who was a trance channeler. And I had absolutely no idea what that was at the time. So this was my first time learning what a trance channeler was, which, for anyone who is not familiar, a trance channeler is someone who, when people talk about channeling, there are different types of channeling, but a trance channeler specifically is someone who allows energies to speak through them. And they will usually do this in a state of trance. People also do this consciously. So there's also conscious channeling where they are also allowing energies to speak through them, but they're fully present simultaneously. So, anyways, you can go down those rabbit holes if you're interested, but I went down those rabbit holes and I started listening to channeled content. So, I listened to channeled content for probably around 2 years, like consistently. And the reason I did this, it wasn't like I was studying, like I guess this all classifies as like being in the seeking stage, but I didn't look at it as study. I was just like craving this information. I remember when I did therapy for the first time way back, several years ago. And my favorite thing about therapy was when I would be sitting there and my therapist would help me come to these like light bulb moments. It's like that moment where everything just clicks for you, like everything just makes sense. And you have these light bulb experiences. Like that's a specific sensation that I know within my body. And when I started listening to channeled content, I was experiencing light bulbs day after day after day. Every single piece of content, it was like, oh my goodness, everything makes sense. It all just resonated so strongly with me. And I'll say, like, when it comes to channeled content, like, you will find kind of like your people that you resonate with more. So sometimes I would put an episode on and then I'd turn it off immediately. And then sometimes I would listen all the way through and then I'd go look for other pieces of their content. So when I say it all resonated with me or light bulbs were going off or whatever, it was with like specific people that I had found that I resonated with. So, all this to say, I had been consuming spiritual content for quite some time. So, when I talk about my spiritual journey in this context, I mean all of it. I mean, like the seeking stage of just learning a lot about this space and these concepts. And I feel like consuming channeled content, it's as consistently as I really do feel like that played a role in just like rewiring my brain to carry new beliefs about the world and how the world operates. Then going into my own spiritual experiences, and it's crazy how I had been consuming this information and it was like I felt like it was true, that felt true in my body, and yet when I experienced it myself, it still just like completely rocked my world. And I don't know, I feel like when you're researching something, it's like you can still turn back from that. When you start experiencing or having spiritual experiences on your own, like there's no going back from that. There's no way I can go back to thinking the way I once did. Especially now, I mean, that was a year ago that I learned I was an energy healer. And since then, I've had many, many spiritual experiences that there really is just like no looking back from here. So, in summary, when I'm talking about navigating a spiritual journey, I'm referring to this journey that shifted the way that I see the world and changed the way I move within it. It's like this state from disempowerment to empowerment. Like that's how I would define it. That's the experience that I've had for myself. And I want to talk about the impact that that can have on your relationships. I want to talk about this from two angles. One, the isolation that this can bring and how to overcome that. And two, how to interact with others when not everyone thinks like you do. So to start with, isolation and how to overcome that. I remember coming home from my very first Reiki training feeling so overwhelmed. It was like, yes, I have this beautiful gift. Oh my goodness, my hands are moving. And it was also so isolating because I felt like there was absolutely no one in my life that I could turn to who could say, yeah, Lisa, I've been there, or yeah, Lisa, I'm going through that too. Like I felt so alone and like I had so many more questions than I had answers, and I didn't really know how to navigate that. So, and of course I had support, I had love. Like I feel like everyone who I talked about this, I was so lucky to be received with love, but it feels like there's a difference between people supporting you and people like fully understanding you or fully knowing what you're going through, or just, I don't know, someone who had some sort of shared experience. I feel like I was looking for that. I even remember Googling, like, what did I Google? It was something along the lines of hands start moving, or like I don't know, like hands moving during meditation, or I don't know. I was Googling something, any type of words I could put together to like quickly wrap up my experience into a Google search to try and find, I don't know, some forum, some video where someone was explaining an experience that hopefully looked like mine. This was unsuccessful. I did not find anyone. I think the closest I got was seeing people talk about meditating and then experiencing what they call mudras, which is like a yogic term. And yes, your hands do move. And there were like images of specific hand positioning. And I was like, none of those match mine. So regardless, it didn't really help me. Like that actually didn't help me feel any less alone. So during this time, I remember regular conversation with people, just like friends and family. It just like, it didn't feel right. Like, I want to say it didn't feel right to me. It was just like, it felt a little bit off to me because on one hand, I was learning all of these new things. I was having these deeper understandings of the world and how everything works. And I wanted to be talking about that. I wanted to be having these conversations. So because of that, like these surface level topics just like weren't quite doing it for me, I'll say. But at the same time, I had this fear of sharing my experience and what I was going through out of fear of judgment or rejection. Like I genuinely believed if I started telling people what I was experiencing with my hands, that I was going to lose like all of my friends. And I mean, not lose my family, they're kind of stuck with me, but like I didn't feel like anyone was going to understand me. So how did I overcome this? Okay. So the first tip or lesson I'll share is give people the opportunity to meet you. Like people will surprise you, they may surprise you, but you have to give them an opportunity to meet you. So I did eventually start sharing these experiences, obviously. And I mean, on one end, I was sharing with close friends and they were showering me with love and support. But I also had conversations with some people where I was sharing my story, and then the response was like, oh, like I'm thinking of I have a specific friend in mind who I've known for years, and she's a friend through my husband. And I shared my story with her, and she was like, oh, my mom does Reiki and she taught me how to do it. And I was like, oh, what? Like, I never knew this. But of course, I never knew this because we had never talked about things like this. And another crazy one was my husband went on a guys' trip with all of his college friends. And he was kind of giving them the life update, like sharing what I was up to and the experiences that I was having. And a college friend that he's known for years and years and years was like, oh, my mom's a Reiki master, actually. And so they had a whole discussion about it. And he was like, oh, I never knew that. And so, again, like these things that you don't expect, people will surprise you if you open up and start to share about what you're experiencing. You never know what people are also experiencing and maybe just haven't talked openly about. My husband also has friends who are spiritual. I'll say like one like really close friend who is in this space and who grew up in this space. And so I've been able to connect with her on a deeper level, just going back and forth, kind of like sharing different experiences that we've had. And then she's connected me with one of her friends who is also in this space and grew up in this space. So it's like me having the courage to open up and share about what I've been experiencing has led me to meet people who are also in this space, or has led me to connect with people that I had already known on a deeper level. Another tip I have is to put yourself in situations to meet like-minded people. So I've talked about this group mentorship program that I did, kind of like a mastermind where the topics were developing your intuition and energy healing and a bunch of shadow work around the fear of being seen. It was like this perfect fit for me as I was building up the courage to start this podcast, right? And in that mentorship program, I ended up meeting, I think it was a group of like 25 other girls who were kind of in the same space and also in the same boat. And it was really interesting because they were of varying ages, varying levels of intuitive development, and also all over the place. So, not just all over the country, but there were a few people that were international as well. So, it was really interesting to see just like a wide range of people come together and have this shared common ground. And it also really helped me feel a lot less alone when I was sort of at the beginning of navigating this journey, like right after I quit my job, and just feeling like I had some support in the space or a group of people that I could go and like share wins with and talk about the things that I wanted to talk about and know that that was a safe space and that others were experiencing similar things. Okay, the last tip I have on overcoming isolation is to find a mentor. Like, if you are in this space the way that I am in this space, like having spiritual experiences the way that I'm having them, or just if you feel that having a mentor would be helpful for you, like that has been a game changer for me. I do not know what I would do without my Reiki person, without the Reiki master who I wholeheartedly trust and who has helped me understand my gifts on a deeper level. The group mentorship program I did, although it was in a group, we also had one-on-one sessions. I also had a space where I was able to show up week after week and ask questions. Having mentor support to help me not only understand my gifts and myself, but also to help empower me on how to use them, that has just been, I don't know what I would have done without that. So my last tip, if you feel like it's necessary, find a mentor. That has been a game changer for me. So overall, although I feel like I have definitely met more people in this space, I still don't feel like I have quite found my community yet, but I definitely don't feel the same level of isolation and overwhelm as I once did. Okay, part 2, how to interact with others when not everyone thinks like you do. Again, this journey has completely shifted the way I see the world and how I move within it. Like, it's this huge mental shift, or just this huge overall shift from a state of disempowerment to a state of empowerment. And I feel like when I finally learned that all I had to do was maintain my own frequency, a high frequency, maintain a high frequency, and then my reality would reflect that, that was like finding the cheat code to life. So naturally, when I have loved ones who I see operating from a disempowered state, I want to like shake them. I'm like, you guys, you have more power than you think, right? Like you want the best for everyone you love, and so you want to share the things that you are learning, and you want them to understand the power that they have to create their life. So how do you manage that? How do you navigate that, right? Tip number 1, respect the journey of the soul. I think going through a spiritual journey involves learning to respect the journey of your own soul, learning to respect and trust the journey that your soul chose. And in turn, that means learning to respect the journey of all souls, even when that journey doesn't look like what you think it should look like. I feel like our society has created this cookie cutter template of what the right way to do life is. Like, you're born, you go to school, you go to college, you get a degree, you get a job, you start a family. Like, you all know what that life path looks like. But everyone is here to experience something different, and that is dependent on their unique soul blueprint. That is dependent on their karma, the lessons that they are here to learn. Like, there's so many different factors at play that we're unaware of. So who are we to judge what is right and what is wrong? To you, it can look like someone is throwing their life away, but maybe the experiences they're having are exactly what that soul needed for their own evolution. So I say all this to say, when you're navigating your own spiritual journey and the people around you, if you're like me, you're like trying to shake everyone into a state of empowerment, like, maybe that's not their path. I'm not saying to not attempt to help people, to not attempt to guide them. Like, of course, speak your truth, say your piece, but just know that if it is a part of someone's path, then their soul will lead them to that. So do not make it your mission to change anyone. Tip number 2, inspire change through embodiment. Like I just said, don't make it your mission to change anyone, because that honestly doesn't work anyways. You cannot convince or talk someone into changing. Authentic, lasting change needs to come from within. If you really want the best for your loved ones and you really believe that this is the solution, then embody that first. Like, be the change first. So let's say you're learning about manifestation and you're like, oh my God, manifestation, I can manifest anything. It's possible. I can manifest $1 million. Don't walk around trying to convince people, getting into arguments about how manifestation works and trying to convince them that you can manifest $1 million. Do it. Be the change first. And when they see what's possible for you, maybe, just maybe, that will inspire change within them. So don't attempt to change people. the best thing that you can do for people, speaking from experience, is to love them exactly where they are, for exactly who they are, where exactly they are. Love them. Show them unconditional love. And lead by example. Tip number 3, energetic resilience. So this is actually one that I haven't practiced or mastered yet. I'm going to give you the answer, but just know that this is also something that I am starting to work on. I actually went and saw my Reiki master yesterday because I was like, I feel like I'm having this trigger surface again and again and again and again, and I just cannot figure out how to work through this. So this trigger that I've been experiencing is that I'll have people in my life, like dear loved ones who are very close to me, and I'm witnessing them spiral down in negative thought patterns. And my gut reaction is frustration. And I immediately jump to trying to pull them back up. It's like they're spiraling in these negative loops. And I'm like, okay, but like maybe it's not that bad. Okay, but like maybe this could happen. Maybe the potentials are also equally positive. And I know that that's not what you're supposed to do. I understand that from a logical perspective. And for some reason, I just could not stop responding in this way. And what we ended up talking about was energetic resilience. We didn't use those terms, but I did learn about the term energetic resilience in a book I read. It's called Manifestation Mastery, and it is a piece of channeled content by someone named Christina Rice, or she goes by Christina the Channel. Love her, by the way. So in this book, she talks about energetic resilience, which is the ability to hold your frequency no matter who you come into contact with. So when I went to my Reiki master, it was like, I didn't know if maybe this was triggering for me because I didn't know how to hold space properly. I mean, yes, I think that there is definitely a layer of that, but I didn't know if there was some specific way that I should be responding when this kept happening. And what we ended up talking about was exactly this. It's less about them and more about me. This is coming up for me to teach me how to hold my frequency. So what was happening is I was having these loved ones spiral down, and I would just like come down with them, and I would end up in these bad moods, or I would end up upset or frustrated, or we would end up in these arguments. Like I could not hold my frequency. Instead, I was just, whenever I was out in the world, like whoever I was interacting with, I was just meeting them wherever they are. So how to hold your frequency, this is about learning energy protection. This is about learning how to detach energetically from other people. And that can be as simple as setting that intention. Like when you are experiencing a loved one start to spiral negatively or spiral in negative thought loops, you can set the intention to detach energetically from them. So this is what we just talked about yesterday. I thought it was important to include because I think it is an important piece of interacting with others who don't think the way that you do, but just also know that I am just beginning to start this practice and start this work. Also, energy protection methods, like we talked about, like you can visualize yourself in a bubble of protection. I like calling it my bubble of divine protection and setting the intention to only let love and light into that bubble. There are a bunch of different energy protection methods, though, that you can definitely Google or research. Okay, tip number 4, and this is the one that I will leave you with, which is not everyone needs to speak your language. Someone can be living in their purpose or moving in the direction of their purpose. They can be moving in love. They can be moving with intention. They can be living from an empowered place without the same spiritual beliefs, without the same spiritual jargon. So I would really sit and evaluate what it really means to you to be spiritual. Not everyone needs to speak the same language or the same spiritual jargon to be quote unquote doing the work or to be moving through the world at a higher frequency. Okay, so those are my tips on overcoming isolation and just in general navigating a spiritual journey when no one else around you is. Some things that I've learned along the way. I hope that was helpful to anyone listening. And that is all I have for you. So I will see you again next week. Bye.